All right, this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and this is a visit to a viewer's house. So I love when I go on field trips and get to visit viewers that are also growing food. It actually is really cool to know that I'm inspiring many people out there, and maybe even you guys out there, and that people are growing food because of me. But not only that, I love visiting viewers' houses to see what everybody's doing, because everybody might not grow exactly like I do. What I do works for me, but there's many ways to grow food, and at this homeowner's place, while they're not growing in their front yard, actually this is the best side of the house to actually get sunlight, but the problem with the front yard is that they have a few trees here that they don't want to cut down. So I'd probably encourage them to at least hack down one of the trees to grow some crops in the place where it's going to get the most sun. So what they're doing instead is actually growing in the backyard. And if you're a homeowner, generally you don't have a problem building raised beds and putting in and making improvements to your land to do what you want with your property. And, they didn't necessarily want to do that here. So actually they're growing in all containers, which is quite a unique thing. Now, whether you're renting or owning, you could always grow in containers. They're easily movable, and, they have a few reasons for doing this. So what we're going to do next is actually head into the backyard and show you guys what's growing on at this viewer's house. Now we're inside the backyard, and here's the garden you can see behind me. I mean, literally all it is, it's in 15-gallon containers, and it's on top of pallets, and they have this cool structure for a trellis. Now you might be asking yourself, John, why would homeowners have a garden like this that's just in pots? Well, there's a few good reasons for that. Number one, say it's May and you should have had your plants in already, and you want to grow a garden, but you don't have to start like building the raised beds, constructing them, screwing, drilling, sawing. Then you got to worry about filling them up, and you might have to make one too big, and it might not be just the right area that you want it because the sun might not hit it properly or whatever. So what they came up with as a solution was this. They literally got 15-gallon pots and filled it up with soil, because each pot can be moved to where the sun is if they needed to. They put it on top of pallets so that the grass wouldn't grow up through it and the roots wouldn't grow down into the grass. And so they could also move the pallets, and they get it off the ground to, resist the insects, the slugs and snails, which are pretty prevalent in this garden. They say they haven't had any damage to their plants because it's off the ground and in pots, which is really cool. And they're growing a lot of stuff. So what we're going to do next is actually show you guys just some of the things they're growing. Now it is pretty much the end of the summer season. They got a few summer crops still hanging on, but mostly we're gearing up towards the fall and winter garden. And here in Northern California, you can definitely grow year round, and you want to grow your greens, just like my channel name, Growing Your Greens. You want to grow your greens in the winter time when you can easily grow greens all throughout the winter here in Northern California. So let's take a look at a few of the summer crops hanging on and all the winter greens, and even a few new varieties that I've never seen before that's happening in this backyard. I know what you guys might be thinking, John, what's that crazy structure here that they got happening? Well, this is a unique trellising system that they came up with. Basically it's a fairly inexpensive and, once again, a disassemblable and movable system, just in case they wish to do something later with it. They're basically using some standard construction grade 2x4s, nothing special. They got a couple Simpson strong ties to lock in the corners, so it's a nice stable structure. I don't know that I'd climb up there, but it's definitely going to hold the support beams up there. And then they basically have this stuff right here. This is the trellis, nylon trellis netting that I like so much. I've had previous episodes on it. It comes in a little package, and then it unfurls into like a 4-foot by, 8 or 15-foot or even 30-foot section. And usually I use them going the other direction, but they're putting them up all the way. And you can see here they got some nice Japanese cucumbers growing up the trellis here. 2 plants, one's actually topping out and still flowering out here. They have already pulled out their tomatoes this year and still got some peppers hanging on here. We got probably about another month of growing here, depending on the weather, for the summer crops. But aside from that, they've started planting out their winter greens. So what we're going to do next is actually go over, how they have this system laid out, including the irrigation, because that's very important for you guys. Encourage you guys to make a full, complete system so that you have the greatest possibility of success when growing your own food. So what is a system? A system is something that's going to work no matter what, if you show up or not. So I want a job where I could show up and I don't have to work or not. Wait, anyways. So what we're going to do next, actually, we're going to start actually at the hose bib and show you guys what they have to control their system. And then we're going to show you the specific drip irrigation that they have happening to make all this get watered, whether they're here or not. When putting in a raised bed garden or even just a container garden like this, I highly encourage you guys to put in irrigation the first time. Otherwise, you got to come home, you got to water, you got to remember to water. And you're married to your garden because you can't go on vacation, because if you don't, who's going to water? So something like this, a drip irrigation that's going to save you water and actually water automatically, is very important and critical to have, in my opinion. So you can see here they got the standard hose bib, and this is their hose when it comes out. The hose bib, they usually put a hose in here to hand water, which they do have. They go through a pressure regulator. This is very important for a drip system, to regulate the pressure. I personally do with ball valves, or you can just get a standard pressure regulator that'll drop down the pressure to, say, 25 psi. And then they have basically a converter here to basically take it into 1 into 4, so they can have one with a hose and one goes into the water timer. This is a very important device that controls when your watering system will come on, so that you don't have to be around. Just make sure to change your batteries every once in a while, to keep it running, because if your batteries run out, then the system won't work anymore. Sometimes they use a 9-volt, or sometimes they use the double A's, and actually I prefer the water timers that have a ball valve. They're a lot more durable than the ones that have the other kind of valves, the diaphragm valves. So basically the water comes in, there's a little valve in here that controls on and off through the little batteries, and when it's time it'll go on, and then the water will go out this blue hose here and transfer into the drip system. So let's go ahead and show you where it transfers out of this blue line and then into the drip system, how it does that, and actually also something else they have in line that you may also want to buy as well. So they have that blue hose that then goes through like a particulate filter. Then it goes to a green hose, which is this guy right here. And they're using actually some good quality hose. I discourage you guys from using things like vinyl tubing. Vinyl tubing is made out of PVC or polyvinyl chloride. Not a good hose to be using. Highly encourage you guys to use rubber hoses whenever possible. My favorite standard rubber hose is a Craftsman black rubber hose. They have stainless steel ends. They're very indestructible and actually have a lifetime guarantee. In any case, it goes out of the blue hose into the green hose, and then they go into this guy right here. This is actually called the Garden Grow Garden Dechlorinator with replaceable cartridge by Rain Shower. So I had one of these guys, or filter, on a recent episode, I don't know, about 4 episodes back or whatnot. These guys can range in price anywhere from like $40 to $100. The one I recommended a couple shows ago is about $40. And I think this is an excellent device to have. It's going to basically take out the chlorine out of your water. Now, these things are not effective with chloramine. That's a different thing entirely. But these are effective with chlorine to take the chlorine out, because the chlorine is added to the water to disinfect it, so that we don't get waterborne diseases like amoebas and cryptosporidium and bacteria and whatnot. So we have sterile water. But the problem is the chlorine can also negatively impact your soil, and there's soil microbes and beneficial fungi and bacteria in the soil. So we don't want that. So we definitely want to get a garden dechlorinator. In addition, on their standard line on this side, which is their standard garden hose, they also have a dechlorinator also. So I highly encourage you guys to dechlorinate your water and filter your water before putting it on your garden for the best results. Now, you don't have to do this, but I highly encourage you guys to do it, and I filter all the water that goes in my garden because my garden is that important to me. What they have after the filter here is it goes the hose in, and then the filter, and then out of the filter it has a little adapter that is just the standard threads for a garden hose, but then it converts it down to the drip emitter tubing, and I think they're using like 1/2-inch tubing here, and then this tubing runs to the different beds or their containers that they have. Each bed is like one pallet or a set of pallets that they have stacked up together. So next we're going to show you guys how that runs, and then how it actually runs into each 15-gallon pot. We're following the irrigation, which is this pipe right here. This is actually not a pipe, it's an edging, which actually runs out right here. And then their tubing goes right here And pretty much just like when you got to plug in a few appliances, you have like multiple outlet strip. Well, with irrigation, they got splitters, so you just basically tee this off. This is literally a tee, and they tee it off right here. It continues on this direction, and goes over to the beds over there with those containers, and then they tee it off, and this goes this ways, and they have a valve on it, so like if they want to turn off watering this bed because it's getting enough water for whatever reason, they could do that. So I highly encourage you guys to use some valves here in line to turn off certain beds when needed. This can also reduce the pressure and flow if you don't want to water as much. This is a ball valve, so you could turn it like all the way as off like that. And if you turn it like that direction, it's going to reduce the water pressure a little bit. But we're going to leave it on because that's the way I found it. It then goes over and then goes up into this bed, as you can see. And then basically this is the main feeder line. So they're using the ½ inch. And then they convert down to the 1/4 inch spaghetti tubing. Now, while I don't like this tubing, they found it to be the best for their specific application. And this spaghetti tubing has built-in emitters every 6 inches. And this seems to be working great for them. And they have different spaghetti tubing going for each different row. And then in a case like this, they pop the spaghetti tubing up, and then it goes up, 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 up over, and then they bend it over each of the lips here of the containers, 15-gallon containers. Then they basically make a little circle loop thing. So this little circle loop thing is probably about, 14 inches in diameter. And then there's drip emitters every 6 inches here, so it actually makes a good radius and actually will drip this one container fairly well. And basically all the lines that they have here, here's where it tees off again. One goes one way and one goes another way, and they got a whole bunch of these tees, and they've laid it out pretty good. And once again, doing this above ground, as long as you don't kick it or doesn't get knocked or anything, is definitely a good thing to do, because it's it's a non-committal garden. So if you have commitment issues, you could do the above ground drip emitter. Just don't kick it or trip over it, and it should work fine for many years. And you can see here, once again, they're just teeing off and going up with the spaghetti tubing and have that little circle here. And they've mulched conveniently with leaves, and that can definitely conserve water in your garden. You guys just saw how the irrigation system was put in. Now, water is probably one of the most important things for your plants to keep them alive. Just like we need water, we're 70 to 75% water. Plants also have a very high water content, so you need to keep them watered, and I highly encourage you guys to put in an irrigation system. So aside from the water, we're going to show you actually how they're doing it here and how they're growing all these beautiful vegetables in the backyard. So the first thing they did was they actually decided where they want to put it, and they figured that out. Then they got some cardboard, and this is a technique called sheet mulching. Literally, you're mulching with cardboard over sections of the grass to basically smother the grass out so that the grass doesn't grow through the cardboard. Then they laid down a standard shipping pallet. These may be available on Craigslist for free, or maybe your local work has a ton of extra pallets they don't need. Lay one down. And what the pallet does is that this provides a layer of, number one, air circulation. But number two, it's basically a layer of protection so that the grass and things can't grow up into the pot, and the things in the pot, the roots won't grow out of the pot and then into the ground. Also, it is very beneficial for isolating, your plants from bugs and pests. They say that they don't actually get any bug or slug damage because it is isolated off the ground like this. So I definitely think that's really smart, and I haven't seen it done like this anywhere before. Next, they have your standard 15-gallon nursery pot. If you go to like a big box store, these guys are going to be very expensive. But if you order them online or go to a specialty nursery store, you could oftentimes get these for very inexpensive. Even better yet, call up some local landscapers in your area and ask them, hey, what do you guys do with some of the pots that you put the trees in after you plant the trees out? Can you save them for me? And a lot of those guys burn through trees because they're putting in landscapes, and they have all these extra pots, and a lot of times they just chuck them out. But maybe you could get them for free and literally have a free garden that way. Some of these pots are really nice. They hold 15 gallons, and when you're growing for vegetables, basically you need a nice wide diameter pot, as wide as possible, and you really don't need it that deep. These are actually probably a little bit too deep, but these are the closest size that they could find, probably with a good circumference and also not too deep of a depth. You pretty much don't need anything more than about 12 inches in my opinion. And anything over that, these are maybe, I don't know, 18 or so. That's all right, but you may be wasting extra soil because the plants aren't necessarily going to root down that deeply. So they got a 15-gallon nursery pot, nice wide diameter, and what they're growing in each pot is a little bit different. This one actually, they have Brussels sprouts, nice healthy looking plant here, and then along the edges around the Brussels sprouts, which are growing up in the middle, they got some beets growing. So this is a very good way to basically maximize the use of your space by growing one thing in the center and other crops around. Looks like they got about 6 beets along the outside ring and the 1 collard greens in the middle. I guess over in this next container here, they got tree collards with 2 Swiss chard plants growing, and each one has a little bit different things happening in it. Next, what we're going to do is actually show you some of the variety of things that are growing here in these containers very successfully. In these containers, this is part of their summer garden still, and these guys right here, they have some pepper plants, and they're using this cool trellis system here, just a very simple plastic trellis system. This guy looks like it has some nice large California peppers on there, or bell peppers, maybe some California Wonder, something like that. And this container or 15-gallon pot has 1 plant in it. The one behind here actually has 2 plants, and it looks like those are actually doing quite well. You may even be able to fit 3 pepper plants in here if you space them right. I think that'd probably work pretty well. And this one just has a single pepper plant here. Now, it's very important when growing in a small, tight, confined space to put a trellis on right when you plant the plant start, because if you try to put it on later, it might be a pain in the butt, and it might not even work that well, and you may end up breaking the plant. So they've used some trellises very well here, and it looks like it's about the same height that it needs to be. So that's really cool. Another thing they're using is they're using some mulch, so they got a lot of different wood chips on top for the mulch, also tree bark and leaves. In this container, they probably had something from a summer crop, maybe tomatoes, for example, and they're starting to plant the fall/winter garden. They got some Brussels sprouts in this one. So if you got a hankering for some Brussels sprouts, plant some. They're already starting to plant out for the fall and winter, which is definitely a wise thing to do now while it still hasn't gotten too cold yet. If you wait too long to plant your fall/winter garden, it's going to get too cold and things aren't going to quite grow as fast. You really want to get that winter garden in now, especially if you live in Northern California. And, things will have about a month to grow really well and get to a nice large point where it's photosynthesizing a lot because it's got a lot of leaves before it starts to get really cold and not as much sun. So, establish your winter garden now like they're doing here. This is some Brussels sprouts. You might be thinking, hey, John, that doesn't look like the Brussels sprouts, because the Brussels sprouts you and I know look like little small cabbages, right, in the store. But when the plant's young, it just has some leaves. It looks like a collard greens. And guess what? Even though these are Brussels sprouts, it doesn't have the sprouts on it. You could still eat the leaves, and they're Brussels sprout greens. I like to juice them or actually blend them up. Over in this area, what they got are some of my favorite crops in the whole wide world, and that's this guy right here towering up above everything else. These guys are probably about 3-4 feet tall, and these are the tree collards. These are perennial tree collards. They'll grow year-round here, and they're getting quite tall. At some point, they may want to top them off, so it'll actually encourage more side shooting. Looks like this plant does have a lot of good side shoots coming out to produce more leaves. In addition, making the most of your space is really important, whether you're growing in a raised bed or even containers. So while many people might just have like 1 tree collard per 15-gallon pot, not only do they have a tree collard in the middle, they also have some celeriac or celery root along the bottom. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants along the bottom here, and this is basically the celery root. So this is the celery root you can't eat, also called celeriac. But you could also use the celery just like celery, and this celery that you get is, if you'll notice on the video there, it's nice dark green leaves. Like if you go to buy celery in the store, it's always like almost like a yellowish color. And I don't know what's up with that, because celery should be this dark and really rich in chlorophyll. I consider celery another really good leafy green you can't eat. Now, while I don't like eating the celery leaves, they have a funny flavor. I might juice them up, but I like to harvest some of these celery stalks and chop them up or just eat them straight off the plant. They taste so good. Like it's just like how celery should be tasting, not like the flavorless stuff you buy from the grocery store. That's just yet another reason to grow your own food. Besides all the containers in this backyard, they also had a pre-existing raised bed that may or may not have been growing vegetables before it, and so they literally filled it up with some good organic compost, some amendments like the worm castings and whatnot, and they're growing a lot of stuff in here as well. Looks like they're spacing things out really well here. Square foot gardening method. They got some tot soy here, about 6 plants, and literally just a few square feet. They grow really close, and actually that's another excellent winter vegetable to be growing now. Looks like they also have things like broccoli and kale and collard greens and chard and even lettuce down there and some herbs too. And I like that there's a hummingbird down there actually getting some nectar from the borage plant, and they got actually nasturtium climbing up a trellis along the house there. Another reason they may be doing the containers and on the pallets to get them off the ground is because they have some dogs, and as you can see, the dog is currently digging in the ground there, making quite a mess. And if you had a raised bed, if the dog would jump in the raised bed and start digging up all your plants, that'd be no fun. So definitely having them in some containers off the ground will definitely keep your pets off. And I know for you guys that have cats, like cats will use your raised beds literally as a litter box, you know, if there's nothing growing in there. Some ways around that are to basically grow things in there and grow them densely so that they won't go in there. Or you could use the welded wire fencing over the top, because then they won't climb on that. Or you could put, a fence around the perimeter as well. Next, we're going to take a look at some more crops they have growing in their containers in the backyard. Over here, they got some parsley. Now, parsley, most people consider it an herb. I consider it a leafy green vegetable. And actually, I'd come and harvest a bunch of this parsley and just chop it up really fine and maybe mix it in with some guacamole, a little bit of garlic, and some sprouted buckwheat, and actually call that a salad. In addition, they got some purple cauliflower here. I always encourage you to grow your foods of color. Besides cauliflower being white, I've also seen green, purple, and even like cheese-colored or cheddar cheese-colored cauliflower. So they all taste about the same, but they're definitely cool to look at. I love visiting viewers' houses, especially when I find new plants that I was not aware about and can share them with you guys. And actually, here's one of them. I don't know if you could see that on the camera there. This is dinosaur kale. You may have known about dinosaur kale, also called lacticino kale or Tuscan kale. It's probably one of the most nutrient-dense kales out there because it's just so dark leafy green, has so much chlorophyll in it. But if you're thinking this doesn't look exactly like dinosaur kale, you'd be right. It looks a lot shinier, like they're literally spraying something on it to maybe make it bug and insect repellent. But they're not. Actually, this dinosaur kale is a special variety called Shiny Diny. And this Shiny Diny dinosaur kale is actually quite shiny and actually even a darker leaf than the standard dinosaur kale. So this one's really cool. I want to definitely get some seed from this and actually start growing it out. I'd like to grow Shiny Diny and regular Diny or regular dinosaur kale next to each other, to show the comparison. Plus, it looked kind of cool as a visual element as well, and it tripped people out, and I like doing that. Another crop that they're growing that I've never seen before is actually this stuff right here. This is actually just called frizzy kale, and this stuff is actually quite frizzy. Now, this is definitely cool and a novelty, but I tend not to like frizzy leafy greens because, there tends to be bugs that'll get stuck in all the frizzies. Luckily here they have a good program with some good soil and some good natural controls, and actually it doesn't look like they have any bugs here. So in this situation it's not a problem. But yeah, frizzy kale, definitely another good one you want to try. And every different kale, whether it's a dinosaur kale, a frizzy kale, a red Russian kale, a white Siberian kale, a regular red kale, or a winterboard kale, they're all a little bit different. They taste a little bit different, have a different spectrum of nutrients, and they have different growing conditions, such as the red Russian and the dinosaur kale are two kales that I'd grow in the summer and also grow in the winter. Some of the other varieties I find tend to bolt very fast, especially in the summertime when it gets some heat. So those are definitely good to grow in the winter. And this one looks like they're just starting them for the winter season here. And so far, so good. I'm always looking to glean, and I don't mean gleaning food from viewers' gardens when I go, but I'm looking to glean information and things that could help me and also you guys out there in YouTube land. And here's a very valuable thing you can do that's super simple and super easy. And I've learned from visiting the viewers' garden today. And what they're doing is they're using the standard blue tape, or this is blue painter's tape. This is the easy release tape, so it doesn't like leave marks on your container. And they put some tape on here, and this one just simply says worms, and this one says Nightshade 2012. This is a very good way you can mark your black containers because it's hard to, write on your black containers. Basically, they put some tape on. They use an indelible marker to put worms. And why worms? Well, that means they took compost that they made on site with worms and just dug up the finished compost that had some baby worms and small worms and put it in the container so that they know when they're digging through this, there may be worms in there if they survived and proliferate, and they'll know that when they dig through here, and they'll be more careful about that. In addition, you could also use these tags to label your soil mixture. Say in this one we used, Sonoma compost, vermiculite, perlite, and coconut coir. And then in another one you could put the mixture that you use. In every basically container you may have a little bit different mixture, and you'll notice that certain containers do better than others. Maybe this one has the azomite and that one doesn't, because you're trying all these things that I'm teaching you guys out to see if it really works for yourself or not. Now, a lot of the things that I mentioned on my show, I mentioned for a reason, because, they do work, and I've used them personally in my garden, and I encourage you guys to use them as well. Another thing they're doing is you could actually label these with what you had in it. So, you have Brussels sprouts in here now. So you growing, brassicas in here. They put Nightshade 2012, which means they grew a nightshade plant in here. And that's because maybe in 2013 they don't want to put nightshades in here because there may be, diseases in the soil from the previous year. And so you could do basically rotation and crop rotation by labeling it so you remember what was in there the year before. So that's definitely a couple of valuable tips we can glean from this garden. One of the questions that I got when I was here was, John, how come my sugar snap peas aren't doing so well? And I took one look at the plants, and there's some white powdery mildew on there, and the plants don't look super vibrant and super healthy. And basically my answer was, in general, I don't generally plant the sugar snap peas like late in the summertime or when it's really hot outside, because they don't necessarily like the heat too much. What I normally do is I plant them in the fall, maybe starting in about a month or so, or even now maybe, and get them established so that they'll basically grow through and very slowly into winter if you're not having any freezes or major freezes. And then come like February or March, they'll really start to take off in your garden. And don't forget to put your trellis up now. But once again, that's what I do, and I always encourage my viewers to try and experiment and grow different things at different times of the year and see what works for you and make note of it, maybe even make a video about it to share with others. In this way, you'll become better as a gardener with what works in your specific situation. And once again, in many situations, I'm just sharing with you guys what works for me in my situation. So I save the best for last, and actually the best is actually, in my opinion, is in this pot right here. There's a 15-gallon pot, and there's a little plant tag, and it says J. Kohler tree collard. So I never knew that I had tree collards named after me. And so that's what they're growing right here. And when they got these tree collards, they weren't actually looking super healthy, but they've been totally revived. And you can see the growth here on the tree collards, nice thin stem. But then it just started spurting out, and now the stem's gotten a lot thicker. And these are actually some of the tree collard starts that were picked up at the Heirloom Expo just a few months ago. And man, this has much more substantial growth than the ones that I brought home that I didn't sell. And that's because they've put this in a larger pot and fed it and watered it very well. So that's definitely really cool. In addition, they got some J. Kohler red sorrel. So some red vein sorrel or bloody dock, another plant that I love to grow. This is definitely a perennial. Actually, both these guys are perennials. And a lot of the crops they're growing here are annuals, but I definitely think that a move to growing more perennial crops is a smart thing to do, because that's like the lazy man's garden. The plants you can plant just once, they continue to produce year after year, like the tree collards or on the red vein sorrel. They'll actually go to seed, drop seed, and then you'll have them come out up as weeds everywhere. So that's definitely really smart. And another technique that I encourage you guys to use in your garden. Well, pretty much the days at the end, and I've showed you most of the things they're doing here in this backyard. Hopefully this has given you some ideas on what you can do in your backyard, especially if you have commitment phobias like many of us do. Get some containers, sheet mulch, raise them up on pallets, put a drip irrigation system in. You can move them, you could take them down, you could build a raised bed later if you desire, or anything you want. It really is that easy to grow some food, and they're doing it here, and now you know how to do it too. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.